Hello, and welcome back to another chapter of It Hurts to Hope by Inquilatory on AO3. Chapter 31, The Stars in Our Eyes. He dreams, or perhaps he wishes, or maybe he imagines. Whatever the reason, whatever the way, he's in a place that's not dark, yet not light either. A place that simply is. A place that does not exist, never did, and never will. There are 3 people in front of him. 3 people, yet somehow only one person, because he knows in a way only he can, that they are all him, and he is them. To the left is the one with the sun-bleached hair, that's nearly blonde, the one whose eyes are dark but not quite black. They're the color of the sea, the color of the sky at twilight. He wears a green tunic, and a majestic pair of red, yellow, blue wings flutter against his back. To the right is the one with the longest hair, honey brown curls that brush against his shoulders. The red sweater snugly fits against a lithe, muscled form, and void dark eyes blink mischievously. Purple feathers just barely peek out from behind his shoulders. In the very middle, sandwiched between the 2 extremes, is the most extreme of them all. It sends a shiver down his spine to see the white-purple robes. The porcelain mask with the broken markings on it. His wings are the same shade as the one on the right, but they flicker and glow with shadows, and too many feathers for just 2 wings. Eyes open and close around him, and his hair is pulled back as tight as it can go. "I don't understand," he says aloud, and the one on the left laughs. It's a delighted, naive laugh, not yet tampered with by what is yet to come. "But you should. We are you, and you are us. This is simply a resting spot, where we can talk as if we're not. If it makes it any easier, we can assign ourselves names," the one on the right chirps in, giving him a reassuring smile. His eyes are understanding, edged with experience, yet still clinging onto that childish glee. "I'm Hermit, he's Evo, and he is Watcher." The one in the middle doesn't say anything. The shadow wings shift and glow. "Is this because I remember now?" he asks, and Hermit nods. "I remember my past, which is you." He turns to Evo, bright and cheerful. "You're who I was. I was a lot different back then, wasn't I?" "Yeah, you were." Evo nods and bounces on the balls of her feet. "But this is where you started. I was the foundation on which you began." He nods in return and looks to Hermit, older and lined with memories. "And you're who I will be. But in that case..." A lump lodges in his throat. It takes a second to force his gaze over to Watcher. "You're who I am?" he asks, and he can't help the helplessness that bleeds into his voice. Evo sings under his breath and shakes his head, a trill escaping as he ponders the question. "No, I wouldn't say that. We're all you. Not at any time or place, but just you. Does that make sense? We're the pieces that make up the whole." "I suppose." He takes in a deep breath and fidgets with his hands, calloused from work that he doesn't remember, and smooth from time when he did none. "Why are we here, then?" "You're remembering, which means you have to make a decision," Hermit says, as gently as he can. "You didn't want to remember, but I'm afraid it wasn't up to you in the end. You'll have to choose your path." "What choices do I have, then?" he asks, unsure if the answer is even something he'll want to hear. You accept all of us? Some of us, or none of us. Hermit shrugs and spreads his hands wide. That's all there is to it. It's ultimately up to you. There are no right or wrong answers here, and no one to judge you. You might not even recall this. He takes a deep breath that doesn't quite make it to his lungs and hesitates. It seems simple enough. It's his choice, and his choice alone. He doesn't even have to choose any of them, though he's unsure of what that would entail. They stand patiently and watch him. 3 shards that fit perfectly into one shattered mirror. But if he takes them all and puts them back in, who will he see when he looks at his reflection? He walks up to Hermit, the one most similar to himself right now. But that's a lie, isn't it? He's not this comfortable, not this healed. He doesn't stand like he knows no one will scold him for taking up space and smile like it's a natural thing to do. I accept you, he says quietly, and Hermit dips his head in thanks, eyes dark and sparkling. I hope you are where my path leads. I hope I become you one day. You already have, Hermit whispers, reaching out to touch his cheek with a feather-light hand, cold and warm at the same time. He smiles and winks, and in that little quiet moment, he and Hermit become one. He turns to Evo. His gaze ghosts over Watcher without so much as a glance, and he takes Evo's hands in his own. I accept you. You're so unlike anything that came after, he says, studying Evo's sun-bleached hair and sea-dark eyes. So unlike who I am now, I don't think I can be you anymore. You still are, Evo tells him with a grin and a chirp, squeezing his hands tight gently, and in the breath between notes, he and Evo become one. He waits, turned, the nothing void world, silent as he gathers his thoughts together. He turns around. Watcher stands where he was, a figure cut stark against the backdrop of existence. His eyes blink and shudder, but they don't go away. He finds that he doesn't care. A laugh bubbles up in his chest and he lets it out. A small accepting thing. I suppose it was always going to come down to this, he says, and walks up to Watcher. They stand together, face to face. Who he is and who he is. I accept you, he says, and it feels like stones rolling off his tongue. It feels like a weight lifted from his shoulders and a warmth settling in his chest. You are who I became and who I remember not to be. I can't change that, I don't think. Watcher stays silent, but reaches up with a ghost-pale hand and touches his forehead, drawing out a mark with a touch that feels like ice. He doesn't have to look to see what it is. He doesn't have to close his eyes to picture the broken portal. I don't want to ever be like you again, he whispers. You always will be, Watcher replies, hand dropping to his side, and even with the mask between them, he knows that he is smiling. In the moment that passes between life and death, he and Watcher become one. Grian stands alone, and he is whole. The mirror shards fit together like they've always have, and just like they always will. The reflection that stares back is one he has memorized down to the last freckle. It's one he could never hope to remember. It's one he doesn't know at all, and one he'll be familiar with until the end of time. It's him. It's Grian. And that's all he has to be. Exuma is desperate at this point, which is the only reason he's doing this. This is for Grian, he reminds himself, and manages to calm his heartbeat into something reasonable before the door swings open and immediately spikes again. He's expecting the figure that ducks through the doorway, but it's still a shock to see the rigid, sharp lines of red-black armor and the dark visor that hides all expressions from view. It's a shock to see the weapons that line his belt and the shotgun slung across his back. It's a shock to see his twin, his brother, who he doesn't quite know how to act around anymore. EX stops at the center of the room and looks around, obviously avoiding Exuma's gaze for as long as possible. He observes the shelves and the rather empty desk, the sad little plant sitting on the window that Exuma immediately forgets to water until Beat-Ups comes to yell at him with righteous anger, and the well-worn rug stained with dozens of anonymous blotches that could be anything from redstone to tea to void matter. Finally, with nothing else to excuse his wandering gaze, EX sighs and turns to Exuma. Your hermits are in quite the tizzy, he notes, voice so similar to Exuma's, yet pitched lower, resonant and vibrating, like he never quite left the void. Exuma could never get used to it, out here in the overworld where things sound so much flatter. We have a lot on our minds, Exuma says, and EX scoffs. He crosses his arms and tilts his head, skepticism clear in this single moment. I'm sure. What's it got to do with me then? And therein lies the problem. Exuma hasn't told EX why he's been invited here, and now he finds himself at a complete loss for words. He can feel EX's sharp gaze even behind the shaded visor, and knows it's just as calculating as ever. Exuma takes a deep breath and steels his nerve, and spits it out. I need to find the Watchers. Silence fills the room, so stifling he feels like it's choking him. Exuma does his best not to fidget as his brother's stare burns a hole in his head, accusing and dark, and things he can't even name. Quiet reigns supreme. The wilted plant on the windowsill droops a little more. EX bursts out laughing, and the spell shatters. Hilarious, Suma, really, he says, contempt and disbelief coloring his voice. I'm never going near those things again. Last time I did, to save your life, no less, they gave me this, remember? In one swift motion, EX tears the helmet from his head and motions to a furious hand to the grisly scar that drags from one side of his face all the way down to the other. It's a gruesome, jagged thing, dark and otherworldly. In its unnaturalness, faint purple lines bleed from it like veins. Just like Zuma, it's the only thing that marks him. It's the only thing people remember. The Watchers left their mark, and now it's come back to haunt them both. I know that, EX, Exuma snarls, restrained impatience finally boiling over and snapping at his heels. Because Grian is someone out there, alone, hurting, maybe dead. I wouldn't be doing this if I had any other choice. There's a pause as EX studies him, and Exuma curls his hand into shaking fists. Why did you have to find them? EX asks quietly, steadily. Exuma sighs, gritting his teeth together. They took one of my hermits. What? In one swift motion, EX shoves the helmet back onto his head and clasps it tighter, reaching for the weapon behind his shoulder. Why didn't you just say so? Let's go drill those bastards into the ground. Language, EX, Exuma reprimands, but he can't help the smile that twists onto his face. You care about them. EX immediately scoffs, crossing his arms and bringing his shoulders up to his ears in a defensive stance. What? No, of course I don't, he protests. I'm just really bored. Your piddly little server is mind-numbingly peaceful. Yeah, whatever you say, Exuma says, and claps a hand on EX's shoulder. Amusement falls away and is replaced by seriousness. They both feel the shift in tone, and EX puts a hand on Exuma's. Thank you. They've taken too much from us, EX says, and it's not really a reply, but Exuma understands it anyways. We'll get your man back. I'm assuming they've gone to the deep end, and that's why you need me? You've read my mind. Of course I did, Suma. We're literally twins. Exuma can't help the startled laugh that slips out, and EX laughs along as they leave the room together, headed for the office and the frantic plannings within. It's time to get their hermit back. The next few days are chaos. The mess from Exuma's office steadily spreads out to encompass his entire base, turned into something of a central hub for the hermits to operate out of. Every room is in use, be it for extra beds or extra papers, or to plaster the walls with red string and code that makes little sense to anyone, even the person who put it up in the first place. The hermits are suspicious of EX at first, having heard enough from Exuma to know that relations aren't the best between the brothers. But one stern word from their admin and they welcome him readily, and realize that without him, they aren't getting anywhere. Unlike Exuma, who spent most of his time in the overworld after escaping the fall of their home, EX delved even deeper into the end and the secrets it hid. Exuma had grown used to not hearing from his twin for months, if not years at a time, with no way to know if he was dead or alive, only to have him show up with a haunted look in his eyes, and an attitude even colder than when he left. Exuma is in no place to judge EX for his coping mechanisms, but he can't help but feel that every time EX goes into the dark, he loses another part of himself to it. A Voidwalker's home is the end, yes, but to go too deep, and even they will begin to question what is real and what isn't. Whatever his reasons, EX knows a lot about the deep end and what kind of signatures are natural in it. With the help of Pix and Sloy, he pores over code and scans and Void knows what else, and dismisses over half of it as natural phenomenon. The Watchers don't belong in the end. I'll immediately know if it's them, he insists, and Exuma lets him do his research in peace. Corellis and Hypno do their best to help as well, having arrived a few days earlier due to Exuma's panic call for backup. They don't know Green as well as the rest of the server, but he's a hermit, and in their eyes, that's enough. Exuma barely even knows what's happening anymore. It's just an hour after hour of code swimming past his eyes. Friends forcing him to eat and sleep and occasionally rest before he's back at the console, scraping together magic and code into anything that will help him bring Kyrian back. He won't stop. He can't stop. Not until his family is safe and back home. They've taken too much from us, EX had told him, and Exuma can't agree more. Green is trying to give up. He doesn't know. He doesn't want to know. It's been too long, and that's about as much as he's willing to admit to himself. It's been too long in this void-filled world, where he's never warm, and never comfortable, and never safe. The magic of the Watchers continues to dip and bend around him, prodding at his walls and furiously trying to get in, but he doesn't let them. He's returned to consciousness somewhat after the hallucinated meeting with the other Grians. He understands little about what it was, but he does know that he's different now. Not so shattered, not so confused. He remembers the mischief and whimsy of Evo. He acknowledges the newfound confidence and acceptance he's learned on Hermitcraft. He embraces the power and change of the Watchers, without embracing any part of who they are. Grian is whole and he is strong. The Watchers won't break him, and yet he's starting to buckle. And yet he's starting to bend. It's been too long with the Watcher's ever-patient magic pressing against his defenses, and his shields are still weak. Despite his acceptance, he is still only part god. He's trying so hard. He's fighting so hard. Because he just tells himself that it's only until the hermits find him. It's only until his family comes and rescues him. They don't come. The hermits don't come. And every moment, breath, year, hour, Green feels his resolve start to slip a little more. He's alone. Alone like he's always been. And no one cares enough to come rescue the monster they've made him into. Green curls into a ball, threads his fingers through his feathers, and curses the Watchers for making him one of them. He screams in his head because he has no energy to let it out through his throat, and endures every bit of push, pull, tug of the Watcher's magic. God damn it, it hurts. And Green is so tired. He doesn't even notice when he starts pulling feathers. It's just another pinprick of pain in the stellar sky. The entire cosmos open to someone braver and stronger, someone whose wings don't bind them to the ground, and instead lifts them into the abyss. Feathers fall to the pale ground, and no one comes. In the midst of the deep end, a single island separated from the mass floats. Walls stand around it, a barrier of magic surrounding the entire thing in a haze of purple light. Built to keep someone out, or keep someone in? The Watchers are confident in their ability to stay hidden. They've done it for hundreds of thousands of years, masters of secrets and observing from the shadows. The end is a vast expanse of nothingness. How could anyone hope to find them here? There's a light in the void, a spark glowing in the abyss where nothing dares tread. The Watchers have barely enough time to sense the presence of something new before the barriers shatter and an army enters the end. Exuma and the hermits have worked for 3 days straight to weave together a plan that will bring them all safely through the between void and right into the deep end, right to the Watchers' doorsteps, with none being none the wiser. It's taxing and unpleasant, and Pixen's Lloyd's magic can only do so much to protect everyone from the chilled nothing air of the deep. But it's worth it when the shields collapse and the hermits step onto the island. All of them, every hermit, every evolutionist, Pixen's Lloyd and Lara, decked out in armor and wielding weapons enchanted with magic and strength. Exuma stands at the head of the group, a dangerous and imposing figure clad in green armor and a purple visored helmet. Void Matter and Co. glowing around him like an aura of stars. And behind him, proud, strong, battle-ready, are the hermits. Mumbo, frightening and tall in a way he rarely is. Scar and Cub bathed in an unearthly blue-gray glow as magic crackles through the air. Dog towering above them all, false in shining armor with her majestic wings stretching far above her. Etho and Cleo steady and unrelenting in their cold, calm fury. Then they go on. Beef and Ren and Joe, Hypno and Jevin banded together, and Corrales at home among the nothingness. Tango burning brightly, a small speck of nether in the end, and Impulse at his side with a massive hammer clutched in both hands. Exuma clears his throat, though it's unneeded since all the Watchers have already turned to him. There's a small crumpled figure sprawled on the rough endstone behind the shifting mass of eyes and wings, and for a long, long moment there's nothing in Exuma's mind but pure white-hot rage. It takes a long moment to compose himself again. "We are here for our hermit," he says, cold and flat and unforgiving. He is not here to negotiate. He is not here to beg. He is here to bring his family home or die trying. "Here's how this is gonna go. You're gonna give us green, we're gonna leave, and you're going to leave us alone for the rest of eternity. All of us." The watchers rustle and glance at each other. He can practically feel their disbelief and shock, a tangible thing that leaks into their magic and their sight. If the next words from you aren't, "We yield, we will attack," Exuma continues, unbothered, and the watchers immediately bristle. "How dare?" Turkson starts, but they don't let him finish the statement. The hermits attack. Green is pretty sure the world is ending. One moment there's nothing but silence in the void, just him and the watchers and the empty expanse of the dark. The next moment, there's screams and battle cries, a roar of fury, a fiery fury, strong enough to shake the universe. Green understands, in some flash of hope and elation, that the hermits have found him. They've found him. They've come for him. They're here, and everything will be all right. Even with that knowledge, he understands little of what he sees when he gathers the strength to lift his head up. The island has turned into a battlefield. Watchers and players rage against the pale stone, losing ground only to win it back, and a few steps more besides. There's shouts and weapons clashing, and a strange dark armored figure toting an honest-to-God shotgun. Cleo and Etho join together into a destructive whirlwind, back to back as they fight in tandem, a deadly dance that's almost graceful in its movements. False rises into the air above them, a broadsword swinging from hand to hand with little difficulty. Hypno's magic crackles through the air, joined by Scar and Cub, who spin and weave lightning out of the air, the halo of tattered wings glowing against their backs as they call on the magic of their brethren. Corellis isn't far behind, giggling and whooping as he bends the world to his will, eyes much too wide and absorbing too much of the void around him. Pearl is a demon in red, a scythe easily longer than her arm, swinging with deadly precision, aiming to cut and kill and hurt. She's howling something, but it's lost in the din of the battle, perhaps a battle cry, a single unwavering note of defiance that she's still alive. Joe slips from place to place, his journal open in his hands, and pen ever in motion. It's not clear what he's doing, but his fingers are stained with ink, and the wavering shadow of words tumble around him like falling leaves. The evolutionists fight as a pack, attuned to each other in a way only the closest of family can be. Tardis dodges while Salem springs forward, Bigby guarding left, and Martin guarding right. They're a determined and unrelenting force, merging and weaving with each other as naturally as anything. One by one, the watchers fall. They reach back as far as they can, unable to do anything against the combined might of players that have no right to be this strong. Eyes screwed shut, and wings shudder inward as a collective of gods finally learn what it is to fear. Silence falls across the island, so slowly most don't even notice it at first. But ever so hesitantly, the fighting grinds to a jarring stop, and they instinctively turn to the center of the battlefield. The collective has fallen back to the opposite side of the island, clustered around the small form on the ground, and looking quite worse for wear. It's unclear if they're wounded per se, but something has definitely happened here that will take a while to recover from. There is one lone watcher that still stands at the center, winging at awkward angles that might imply they are broken. His eyes shift and squint, and something about him seems muted, subdued. Across from him stands Pixen's Loy, glowing with a similar purple aura and a cloud of eyes that glare, harsh and unforgiving. They have no wings, not anymore, but they refuse to step down. Turkson, Pix says, calm yet somehow so venomous that even some of the hermits take a step back. Been a while. Shame you didn't just surrender. But to be honest, I really need to kick the collective's ass. That's not his name, Zoe shouts. A loud and furious outburst that leaves him shaking, and Turkson silent. "That is not his name," he repeats, quieter. "He is not Rikiv. I am not Quexvin. We left those names far behind in the past, along with our wings." The silence that falls is deafening. The watchers shift. The hermits pause. No one quite knows how to move past that. Lara moves up the stand next to Pix and Sloy, hands moving stiffly and face set in dark, determined expression. Pix translates for her. "Hermitcraft is under the protection of listeners. It and its players will remain untouched by you or your gazes. We stake our claim with these players," Sloy adds, as the final nail to the coffin. "Our alliance with the listeners is strong. If you touch any of them, you will have war." That finally seems to shake the watchers. Turkson flinches back, and the collective freezes like they've been turned to stone. A high, distressed hum rises from the shifting mass of eyes and wings and magic. It's vibrating, pitched, and many-toned, rising to a volume that some of the players clamp their hands over their ears. And then there's nothing. The watchers disappear in the blink of an eye, and all that is left behind is the faint glow of purple magic that someone instinctively seems to blend into Pix and Sloy's aura. The players let out a collective breath of relief, some collapsing to the ground or leaning against each other. Exuma pulls his helmet off and breathes in the freezing air. He closes his eyes for a moment, just a moment, because that's it. They're safe. And he's safe, and Grian, oh sweet boy, Grian, yells, crashing, a furious cacophony of hurt. "That's not his name!" Shock, surprise, is that? Along with our wings, horror, horror, horror. You will have war. Confusion, mass, run, 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 run. And then it's silent. It's quiet and it's silent. And Grian can finally breathe. Every inch of him hurts. He can't move his wings, but the suffocating grip of the collective is gone. There's someone calling out, right on the edge of his hearing. He tries to lift his head, vision blurry, as tears pick at his eyes. Steady beats. Footsteps drawing nearer. A pair of armored legs comes into vision, and Grian tries to crane his neck up to see who they belong to. A confused chirp slips past his lips when he sees a familiar helmet in all the wrong colors. "Exuma?" he slurs, and not Exuma chuckles. "Wrong Voidwalker, friend," he says, and steps back, turning around to address someone Grian can't see. His eyes become fixated on the shotgun slung over his one shoulder, vaguely aware of someone talking around him. He can't concentrate enough to understand what they're saying. He's just so tired. His eyes flutter shut of their own accord. It's so blissfully quiet now, so silent and cold. He's pretty sure that's a bad thing, but right now all he wants to do is sleep. Strong arms wrap around him and gently lift him up, bundling him against what feels like armor. He blinks open bleary eyes and looks up, a warble slipping free of its own accord. He can't describe the face above him, even if he had 1,000,000 words, 1,000 years to string them together. He knows none of them would fit. The skin tone escapes him like the memory of a lullaby. The hair color is hard to grasp as starlight. But the eyes are kind. "Hey there, Grian," Uzuma says, and smiles at him. A smile that's both happy and sad. "Let's go home." And that's the end of chapter 31.